cool to hear someone outside that's actually.
He has no idea, does he?
That's actually you.
Yeah. And you are looking at Jerome High School's football stadium. Welcome to our 7-on-7 webcast here at FBU Top Gun 2014. I'm Neil Sika with Joe Buffard, who's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Football University. A little recap of day one. We're going to focus on the Lineman here in this second session. We'll see some of the top offensive high school football stars in the country coming up on the main stadium field. Joe, how are you?
Great, Neil. It's great. Another great day of football here in Dublin, Ohio.
Yeah, day two of Top Gun 2014. Take us through. So far, what's impressed you?
Well, I'll tell you what, just the amount of talent that comes out of the woodwork for an event like this. You know, FP does a great job in their 30 camps across the country to identify some of the best players. They match them up with great coaching with the NFL level coaches, and then they showcase that talent here in Dublin, Ohio at the Top Gun National Showcase. So it's amazing when you see kids that are playing well above their means as far as height, size, ability, and their talent is really standing out and making them excel on a national platform like this.
Well, we've seen the stars come out in the first half. We had the 7-on sessions earlier, and we'll be joined by members of XO's Digital a little bit later on to describe the 7-on-7 action. But we've also had a few U.S. Army All-American specialists named. Movie premiere later tonight. What's going on the rest of the weekend of the camp? We're kind of at the midway point.
We are at the midway point, yeah. So it's been very exciting. We had a great opening yesterday. We have about over 800 athletes here from across the country. We even got a kid from Sweden coming all the way over the pond to learn some American football.
Nice.
Two players from Hawaii have joined us as well. So we're quite diverse here in Dublin, Ohio at the FBU Top Gun. A lot of things have happened so far. Like I said, we had a great kickoff yesterday. We had a really solid practice. The first practice, the coaches really focus on techniques, kind of see where the players are at, making sure that the matchups are going to be good, a little bit of competition drills. We had a great practice this morning. But that was actually kind of neat. We did something special this morning. There's a new movie coming out in October called 23 Blasts about a young man in Kentucky who grew up blind. He was infected with a virus that lost his sight. And at a youth football player, he came back and played his high school. So Travis Freeman, it's a great story about him. So the parents got a sneak peek of it this morning. We had Travis himself out here and gave a nice motivational speech to the athletes this morning. Dylan Baker, the producer and director of the movie, was here as well, and he's a star of the movie. And tonight is the premiere. So tonight, all the athletes are going to hit the showers after their last practice, then come back and have a full red carpet premiere. They're going to see this movie that the nation will see in October. And there's that. And then we've got a special guest, one of the former U.S. Army All-Americans, Byron Rolls. A Rhodes Scholar is going to come in tomorrow and address the athletes and talk about his great story and what it really takes to get their mind and academics at the next level.
Myron, a great young man. He's Joe Buffard, the VP of Marketing and Sales for Football University, where the instruction and the information from Joe never stops. We've got Barrett Simmons. He's going to join me next as the linemen go one-on-one. We're going to see some of the top guys in the trenches offensively and defensively here at Top Gun 2014. Neil Sika with 24/7 Sports' Barton Simmons. He's back again. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, the big guys. We know there are a few that have committed to the U.S. Army Bowl in future years. We know that there's many on the radar. What did you look for today when you saw these guys?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to look for. Size, body, obviously, is something that you look for in these guys, and then just sort of your athleticism and their upside physically. But the kid that you just saw prior to this rep was a kid named Juan Harris, who's actually in the class of 2017. And he'll be a guy to watch, and we'll get a chance to see him a little bit more later. But massive kid. Has some weight he needs to shift around over the next couple of years, but really moves well, and already with a couple of offers, and seeing how he can compete out here and move around, and so often you see these guys on film and they're just dominant from a physical perspective, but by being able to just actually watch them move around, see how their feet are, see what kind of athleticism they've got in person, it can tell you so much. So this is a good setting for that kind of an evaluation.
Very humble young man in Juan Harris. He's from Notre Dame School for Boys, Niles, Illinois. He's about as big as the state of Illinois, the way he plays, and his game is large too, as Barton was alluding to. Just going to be a sophomore in this upcoming class. One of these linemen will see a name that we've known around the Top Gun community and the FBU family for a while, and that's Tristan Hodge. He's had his commitment to Notre Dame for well over a while, but special type of player and kind of a prime example of not only how these camps can prep you for the bigger and better phases, but to make you a better player going into a prestigious college football program as Notre Dame.
Yeah, no doubt. And Tristan's sitting out today. He's got a little bit of a Achilles issue. He's just a little sore with, so not going to see him compete this afternoon. But I got a chance to see him yesterday, and he was outstanding. And really physical kid. He's also really polished, good technique, all those sort of things. Advanced. He's the #1 center in the country on 24/7 Sports, and really anxious to watch him develop and watch him play up at Notre Dame where he's headed.
Seeing a little bit of the defensive lineman Jairell Stewart, and these linemen in their technique, the instruction top notch.
Yeah, Jonathan McKellar here. Sorry, Neil, didn't mean to interrupt you. Jonathan McKellar here, I think, is the offensive tackle, and could be a guy to keep an eye on. Big kid, he has the size, and that's sort of half the battle here. At the, in the line of scrimmage is, do they have the body, the frame to play at the next level? You could a lot of offensive linemen could play at the Division III, Division II level, but to be at that Division 1A, 1AA level, you really have to have that kind of frame length, just the ability to add weight, and Jonathan McKellar has certainly got that, and needs to get a little more physical, but you like the way he's put together, and you like the upside he's got in that end.
It's not just the mass and the girth anymore. I'm sure you're looking at who's got the best footwork, the quickness, the agility, and the type of offenses we see around college football and even the pros today.
Yeah, and to be honest, at times mass and girth can almost be a negative. I think a lot of college coaches would rather take a kid that's 260 pounds coming out of high school, that's going to develop naturally, going to add weight as he matures physically, and rather than that 330-pound, 340-pound kid that they have to sort of slim down, trim down, and get to look good physically. The guys that just have the length, long arms, and broad shoulders, but are still, got that flat belly. I mean, those are the guys that I think most college coaches really like and are drawn to.
I was mentioning the coaches: Bob Wiley, William Roberts, Mike Guzda, William Fuller, Ted Cottrell. The names are endless. The NFL experience and coaching at the collegiate level. I love mixing it up and getting the opportunity to hone the next generation of stars in the offensive and defensive lines. You can kind of see Juan Harris off in the corner there.
Yeah, you can. He's easy to spot. But it's nice these guys get to throw helmets on. It kind of enables them to pick up the intensity level a little bit, create a little bit more of a physical atmosphere. You can see the coaching going on right there, telling this defensive lineman, the power at the point of attack is going to come from your hips. It's not going to come from standing straight up. And, if you don't win the battle there, bring your hips, bring that power base. That's where you're going to get knocked off the line of scrimmage. And that offensive lineman there, see if we can figure out what that young man's name is, 456. That's Aaron Park. So he's had a couple of good reps here today, but he did a good job winning the battle at the point of attack there the last couple reps.
He's from Florence, South Carolina, FBU Northern Virginia Regional Camp. So many of these almost 700 high school athletes have spent time at a regional camp before getting their nominations to Top Gun, which is the elite of the 33 camps they had nationwide this year. And we're looking at the linemen and the one-on-one drills are with Barton Simmons, the scouting director for 24/7 Sports. Barton, we had you on at the start of our 7-on-7s earlier in the day, and interested to get your take on what you saw when the receivers and the linebackers. We'll get back to the linemen in just a bit, but what have you seen across Jerome High School here that's maybe caught your eye or you didn't have in the back burner coming into the camp?
Well, I will say there's one kid that jumped out at me at the quarterback position that I think people need to remember the name of, Chancellor Johnson, who's out of the state of Georgia. Big kid, didn't start last year as a sophomore, transferred to Noonan High School, which is one of the top programs in the state of Georgia. He'll be a junior this year, and he's battling for the starting job at his high school right now. And he's all of 6'5", really good baseball player. And he will be a kid to watch this year. If he wins that job, he's got a really live arm, and he certainly needs to polish things up a little bit. But that's the type of player that you see out here, and you don't know coming into the event, and his arm just flashes, and you can't really miss him. So he'll be a name that I'll be anxious to see how he develops this fall. Was happy with what I saw out of the young defensive backs that were out here. Trayvon Mullen, I think, lived up to his name, the early Army All-American Bowl selection. I really like Richard LeCount out of the state of Georgia, 2017 kid, showed outstanding ball skills. So I thought there was a lot of things that really impressed me out here today and this weekend, and so it's definitely some really impressive names that I think are going to continue to rise.
We're seeing some big names on the lineman front. Martez Ivy, that's him, 383 in the orange, and there's been a lot of debate on where he's going to make his college choice. I know Chandler Cox is trying to be a recruiting buddy to get him to go to Auburn with him. They're high school teammates down in Apopka, but where do you think his interests lie, and what is special about 383? I know he's kind of just waiting on his turn here, but what do you like about his game?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You just look at him, look at him physically, look at the other guys out there, and I mean that's what makes him unique.
Not the junior in college.
Junior in high school. And he's so long. Look at the how long his arms are. I mentioned earlier, he's not a big fat kid, sloppy. He's very clean cut and not a lot of bad weight, and that's what you want. We'll get a look at this rep here against DeAndre Walker, who's a really talented kid out of the state of Georgia.
A 2015,
and there you have it right there.
Army recruit. That's Walker. Yeah, you saw the.
When you're going against Martez Ivy, you better not flash your numbers and give him a chest to work with, because Martez Ivy, a guy like that, is going to make you pay. And this second rep, you're going to see DeAndre Walker. He's going to try to close that gap a little bit. Give him a shoulder, give him less surface area to work with, and does a great job there, limiting the space there for a running back. They're working on run blocking right now, so this is a true pass rush drill.
These are two players you will see in the 2015 U.S. Army All-American Bowl. DeAndre Walker in the white, Martez Ivy in that fluorescent or neon orange. Those bright colors.
And these guys
helped you guys spot some of the individuals out there.
Yeah, and these guys could really be teammates at the next level. You look at 24/7 Sports, our crystal ball, where national experts predict.
I was just going to ask you where you're going with
that. Where they think these guys are going to go to college, and 75% of the national experts think that DeAndre Walker is going to end up at Auburn. Meanwhile, most people think that Martez Ivy is going to end up at Florida right now, but at the same time, his good friend, teammate Chandler Cox is committed to Auburn, admittedly recruiting him every day. If Florida struggles this year, Auburn has another great year. I think it's going to be tough to keep him out, out of the SEC West and at Auburn. I mean, that's I think a program that fits his skill set. They're a running program. They kind of run that versatile, diverse option offense, and that's very similar to really the single wing that Martez Ivy runs at Apopka. So, I do think there's going to be a lot of momentum, a lot of opportunity for Auburn to kind of win him over this year. So definitely a name to watch, and you know, he may be a guy that doesn't decide until he's actually on national television at the Army All-American Bowl. Certainly has every opportunity in the world he wants, and he is right now the #1 tackle in the country on 24/7 Sports.
Well, the man in the middle wearing 452 is Dominique Hudson. He's from Maryland. And on the right you saw Michael Green, a few reps from him as they've switched up the unit. We're watching individual lineman one-on-ones. Some of the top in the country as Juan Harris. We've mentioned he's hard to miss. The big 317 there in white in the middle of your screen. They are going to work back to 7-on-7s momentarily, but we're with the director of scouting for 24/7 Sports, and that's Barton Simmons. In the few minutes we have to watch these guys, we've already talked about Juan Harris, but now getting to see him in action is a whole different thing.
Well, it's so, I mean, you look at him and you just think that kid's going to be a slow, you know, just space eater, just that's going to lean on guys, and he actually is really deceptively athletic, and he's got some twitch to him. He's got some explosiveness to him, and he just moves so well for a kid of that size. Now, don't get me wrong, that size is not ideal. This kid is 365 or so pounds. I mean, at least I would say, and so he needs to trim that down over the next couple years. But already he has offers from Wisconsin, Virginia. A lot of people already have crystal balled him on the 24/7 Sports site to Wisconsin. I think that's the place he may end up. But I think his development as a prospect is going to fall right in line with his development physically. You know, if he can trim down, that kid is going to be tough to handle because he's going to have that power. And if he can add some, increase that quickness and mobility, he is going to be a load at the next level.
Connor Glass right there in the center. We're in 413. And another battle right at the point of contact, dealing with Zane Zimmerman out of New York. No glamour and glory in making the big catch or the fine throw, but all the more important in this day and age, the line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive linemen, as we've taken a look here over the last several minutes with Barton Simmons, Director of Scouting, 24/7 Sports. I know you are going to be heading out later this evening, but what's the rest of the recruiting forum for you in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so the camp season is starting to wind down, so sort of fitting that this Top Gun event is at this point in the year as you look at DeAndre Walker with the really strong rep. That's a kid that's going to be probably an outside linebacker in a 3-4 rather than really a hand-down defensive end. But that's a kid that has a chance to be a really good defensive player. But as far as my schedule, I'll be at LSU next week, which is their really elite camp to end the summer. And then it's time to start gearing up for the football season. And trust me, after 6 months of watching kids in shorts and T-shirts, it'll be welcome to see some pads popping.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks for stopping by and giving us the 411 on some of these future college stars here at FBU Top Gun 2014, Dublin Jerome High School. We're taking a look at the lineman with Barton Simmons. He's the Director of Scouting for 24/7 Sports. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me out here.
All right, folks, we'll work our way back to the 7-on-7s as you watch the top prospects in the country right here in Central Ohio. FBU Top Gun 2014. As we'll work our way back now to the 7-on-7s. You see some of our lineman coverage with Barton Simmons of 24/7 Sports. Want to thank him. Geiska Crowley will be joining me shortly. The 7-on-7s, the afternoon session here at Top Gun 2014 will be getting underway. We're going to see some of the top offensive stars in the country and perhaps defensive too. But speaking of the lineman, one you didn't see there was Tristan Hodge. He's been sitting out. He's got a little bit of an injury today. Nothing serious, but had a chance to talk to him and get his thoughts, the Notre Dame commit, as he heads into his senior year out of Pocatello, Idaho. with Tristan Hodge. He's a veteran of the FBU system, whether it's been at local camps, Top Gun, East Bay Youth All-American. Now he's ready for his Top Gun finale. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic.
Tell me how your summer. Tell me how your summer has been. Pocatello, Idaho. I know you just got done with team camp.
Oh man, I mean, we just yeah, it's good to get the team back together, get us ready and conditioned for August 11th. I mean, the camp's been, you know, compared to my last few summers, camps have been low base this year. I mean, I spent a couple weeks back down in a hometown, my new hometown, Notre Dame.
Yeah, right.
The
South
good old,
Bend.
oh yeah, South Bend. Good old place just to get down there. And I mean, also back in the opening a couple weeks ago, get to play with some of the best players in the world, and now I get to come back here and play with some of the best as well.
You made that commitment over a year ago. Still pretty strong in those convictions, I would assume.
Absolutely.
What's the thing about Notre Dame that's impressed you the most?
I'd have to say the team. The team impressed me the most because I got to talk and interact with them, and you know, the team doesn't lie to you. They're the people that'll give you the scoop. I mean, the coaches can say whatever they want, and they'll say it's the greatest. But you get the team, you talk to them, and they tell you what's real. They tell you the real truth.
I've talked to your folks. Big influence, of course, from your uncle too, who played with the Steelers. This Top Gun experience for you, what are you looking forward to the most now that you've been through several camps, several All-Star Bowl games here through the FBU system?
You know, this is I told myself I started at FBU. FBU started with me, and I started with them. So I'm going to end with them this year, and my final season of camps with FBU.
And you know, it's got to be nice too because the weather for you big linemen.
Absolutely.
Not too hot, not too muggy right now. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
This is Idaho weather.
Oh yeah, this is perfect right now.
Good stuff. All the best to you, Tristan.
Thank you.
A very affable young man, and Tristan Hodge. Hopefully we see him back out here for the final day of Top Gun. Just a short little window here of 36 hours where the nation's best come to play and test themselves out in the final moments of the summer season. Neil Sika Geiska Crowley is with me. He's from Exos Digital. He's back again.
Absolutely.
We liked him so much from the first session. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, second half. We're looking for these 7-on-7s. We're going to see some pretty big names on the offensive end to start things off. Should be a fun session.
Absolutely, it is. It is. Like you said, this is the second go-around of it. So everybody's a little more comfortable, you know, the wideouts with the receivers, and then obviously a little more scheme being introduced on the defense. So it'll be a fun session.
For those watching for the first time, there's so many kids. We're talking close to 700 here at Top Gun, and many have gone through the process of regional selection at 30 to 40 camps across the country through Football University, and now getting a chance to play together as a unit. You have teams split into A, B, and C. We're going to see the A offense and the defense. We're going to start with the A defense first. They're going to be going up against the C offense as we'll head out to the field, and the 7-on-7s are about to get underway. In the downtime, guys, between the first session and the second session, you go back, maybe you take a good hard look at what you saw.
Absolutely.
Take some notes and go from there. Is that the process for you guys?
Absolutely. We have about a dozen regional scouts and national scouts with Exos Digital that are here that are evaluating all these players. So during the lunch breaks and then the evening breaks, we'll sit down as a staff, come up with the names, you know, find the consensus names, you know, kind of get an idea of the players we knew were great, you know, then the players that potentially have a chance to be great down the line.
And of course, with 3 or 4 sessions, you don't have a lot of time to spare, so it's who's staying consistent, who maybe has been better in this second session than the first.
Absolutely, absolutely. You try to, and that's big, you know, and with 7-on-7, it's a little different than obviously helmets and shoulder pads, you know, that anybody can make a play, anybody can look good for a couple reps, but like you said, who can consistently make the plays and stick out for not only one session, not only 2 sessions, but the whole camp.
This quarterback we're watching, Chancellor Johnson, a name that was brought up by Barton Simmons earlier. He's kind of caught his eye, the Sharpsburg, Georgia, soon-to-be senior.
Absolutely, he's got some work to do. You know, he's a tall kid. He's got a long delivery. You know, but he's got some tools. He's got some tools. You can tell by the way his body's shaped that he's got some growing to do. I overheard him this morning say he was a pocket passer, not a dual threat guy. But he's got a chance to be a good player down the line, and you know, coming to these 7-on-7s are invaluable for the quarterbacks.
See linebackers and defensive backs, they rotate in. You'll see the shallow stuff. Trying to go deep over the top, and they'll work their way in as we go. They start at the 35. They'll be in the red zone by the time we finish up. Really the signature event if you're in a summer competition or at a camp. And, of course, it's hard to surpass Top Gun, but a lot of these kids used to this with their high schools because that's how they compete in the off season.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, they go against each other obviously in their summer workouts and their summer practices, but then they also will you know, do it in, like you said, in this 7-on-7 in a camp setting, which is a good piece of information to use during an evaluation.
Brandon Velez reeled in that last ball. We're at the south end of Kelt Stadium, which is home to Dublin Jerome High School, here in the northwest suburbs of Columbus. Year 2 here for Top Gun. Year 6 of this elite camp overall. I'm interested, Geiska, to get your thoughts on some of the linemen. You saw their activity before the 7-on-7 started. We just saw that a little bit ago here with Barton, but what did you take away from the lineman work today?
Absolutely, yeah. As a former offensive lineman myself, so I'm a little biased, obviously. And this is the camp setting is a tough setting for the offensive lineman. Obviously, no pads, no helmets, no shoulder pads. You know, you can't hold as much as your offensive line coaches want them to. It's tough, but there's some real good players down there. Tristan Hodge, who I did the interview with earlier, a young man named Montez Ivy, who is a Central Florida prospect. He's a consensus top 10, top 15 player in the country. He's got a chance to be really, really good down the line. But there's some big bodies. You know, sometimes those big guys take a little longer to develop than some of the smaller skill guys, but they get there. Coach Jim McNally was a long-time NFL offensive line coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is one of my personal favorites down there, coaching them up. And you know, like I said, he's a legend. So it's a great experience for those kids.
Well, Diadius Page and Ronald Foster helping on the coverage there. On the Chad Nevin pass. They rotate those reps in very quickly. They've shortened the squads as past camps have had more abundancy, so it's been tougher to get reps. Not this year.
And that's one of the key evaluation tools that you can get, you know, in person that you can't get whether you're watching on film. Is, you know, what kind of kids step up to take the extra rep?
Yes.
What kind of kid is kind of maybe sliding towards the back, you know, willing to give up a rep versus a kid who wants to stay up there and take a rep. You know, that's, you know, that can really be a good evaluation tool for us, you know, providing the information to the colleges as well, to kind of see who's taking that initiative, you know, who's stepping up and taking those extra reps.
You'll see the bright colored bibs. The offense wears the orange here and the defense in white. Spread out fairly consistent across the board. There's a lot of upcoming seniors, but many have impressed in the future classes of 2016 and 2017.
Absolutely, you know, they try to mix in those young guys as much as they can. You know, some of the ones that you know are going to stand out. You know, there are actually some freshman quarterbacks on one of our other fields that have kind of stuck out as well. So yeah, you try to match the grade as evenly as you can, but then you've got those kids that you just know are special and they want to play against top competition, and that's why they bump them up.
Velez again. He's had a couple of receptions in the early going of this session. We take you to the top of the hour. A little bit later on, Randy Rogers of the famed Rogers Reports. Got a good beat on Texas, now part of XO's. We'll step in to assess the day. Day 2, and that window is short. They'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll have the coverage for you live starting around noon, and then finish up with the afternoon session. And then it's the youngsters who will roll in next week, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And you know, you and the army of scouts sticking around because
Absolutely.
the talent doesn't stop at the high school level.
Exactly. You know, it's some people may think it's a little early, and I you know, it is, but it's fun to see the kids compete. It's fun to you know, what we're trying to do with XOs and our recruiting services. We try to provide as much exposure to the high school athlete free of charge, free to the high school coaches, free to the high school players. And so obviously the high school kids are our focus, but it's always fun to see the young guys run around.
Sowards made that last reception for this team in orange. Off that jump ball, just out of the reach, into double coverage.
If I'm not mistaken, there was Malik Young from Coconut Creek. He is a 2016 Army All-American. He's a stud. He is a stud for sure. Number 74.
He made several plays defensively in the earlier session of the day. Well, here is the big man from South Carolina. Starting to get a lot of reps, and his name being worked around there. Should say Georgia, of Chancellor Johnson's home state.
And he's one of those guys, like we talked about earlier, taking reps. You know, I've seen him just in this short span, you know, throw 4, 5, 6 reps.
He's taking those reps to impress you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, he's getting the best coaching out there with all those NFL guys. You know, everybody thinks they're a quarterback, and you know, getting these reps is huge for them. It's all, you know, all using your vision, making good decisions. It can be tough sometimes at the high school level if you're a run-based offense or you're an option-based attack. So it's good to see the quarterbacks really sit back there and throw.
Well, FBU and their instruction, they don't settle for anything less than the best, and you get guys like Chris Miller out there, and the rest of the quarterback coaches, ones that have worked with some of the best in the game, and DJ Shockley, Joe McCulley, Jeff Rutledge. Now, sometimes we see these checkdowns, and it's not just about making the pretty throw or the pretty play, the acrobatic catch. That's nice, that's going to catch an eye, but making the smart decision too, because the game, the read and the react, this is the predication of what a 7-on-7 is. It's being able to make decisions on the fly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously no pass rush, no chance to run the ball. The defensive scheme is going to be a little different. You're going to see a lot of what they call too high coverage, where you got 2 safeties over the top. So you know, you're going to play those guys as your deep protection, and you're going to play everybody underneath. So like you said, to make the deep throws in the 7-on-7 setting can be tough sometimes. The quarterback's going to have to go to a 3rd, 4th, even potentially a 5th read, you know, depending on that 2 shell or 1 shell coverage.
Well, that's a good hit down the middle. Joe Pyle from Fallon, Nevada, threw that on a rope out of the FBU Los Angeles camp. And one of a few that we've had graduated seniors who still trying to maybe impress, get a late signing somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I spoke with a young man from, I believe it was from Canada. He was a mid-year graduation, so he has already graduated, but the way his eligibility was, so he's, you know, coming out here still and trying to get as many, you know, as much exposure as he can, as much competition as he can.
Well, they come from far and away. I mentioned Canada. That's become a big hot spot for FBU up in Ontario, all the way to the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia. And Joe Buffard even mentioning some individuals from Europe and Sweden.
Absolutely,
made
yeah.
their way.
I spoke with that young man earlier during the registration. Yeah, to see it go international is pretty fun.
And that does not include you. You were born in Spain.
I was, yeah. So there's 2 of us, 2 Euros here.
Now the 7-on-7s. This is the afternoon session, day 2. Neil Sika with Geiska Crowley, who covers the Midwest for Exos. In conjunction with them, happy to bring you the 7-on-7 here at the Elite Top Gun from Football University. Covering the action here on the south end of the field, but we'll switch sides. There's even another group that works behind the stadium. 7 to 8 fields here at Jerome. This field turf, by the way, is brand new. Good catch and spin in traffic. Dominique Jackson Washington from Denham Springs, Louisiana with the grab there. I'm interested to know, you see these kids, how often do you get an individual one-on-one conversation just to maybe check out their personality? Because that's a big part of it too. They're still maturing not only as athletes but as individuals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said earlier, we got about a dozen guys out here, scouts from all across the country with Exos. So we're going to try to get as much information to provide to the colleges, contact information, social media accounts. Not only the game film, GPAs, information like that. So our guys at Exos are grabbing parents, we're grabbing kids. We're doing all the things we can to try to get as much information for our clients as we can.
Well, you kids out there, be careful on your Twitters.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
That's
your
one of
Facebooks.
the highly requested things from colleges nowadays is your Facebook accounts, your Twitter accounts. They use it not only to communicate with the prospects because NCAA rules, but also kind of like you said, find a personality. What's important to the kid, what does he do off the field. So we provide that for our college clients, and we do the best we can to get them all that information. But absolutely, it's very, very important nowadays.
As camp season winds down for you, I mean, you've been out on the road and
Absolutely.
doing some scouting. What's the next process before you get out to watch kids play in their actual seasons?
What we're going to do, we're going to go back as a team and break down all the prospects from this, from FBU. But then we also go through, we update all our high school coaches' contact information, make sure that all that information is there for our clients. And then also, kind of get ready for the season. We're in constant contact with those high school coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So just always bulking up our database. And like I said, it'll be around just here in a couple weeks, it feels like.
Well, being the Midwest guy, are you out on the road quite a bit up in this part of the country?
You try to, yeah, absolutely. You try to go to as many games as you can, try to see the kids live. We've got guys on the ground all across the country also that are high school coaches that go to the games and try to get, to see those kids in person, which is part of it as well. He's
Geiska Crowley. I'm Neil Sika. This is Top Gun 2014. 7-on-7 live here on 247sports.com. Hope you're enjoying it. The afternoon session of day 2. Kids get in probably around lunchtime yesterday. Orientation in the afternoon. They hit the field for a couple of hours. Get loose, a few drills. Today is the first real day of work, and it's not just work on the field, it's work in the classroom because they're going back, they're evaluating, doing all this hustle and bustle, which is part of the experience. This is a setting here at Top Gun developed like a college practice, even maybe something beyond that for some who might aspire to go into the professional ranks.
Absolutely. All the coaches will take they film every session, they'll go back in the classroom. They use our product, Exos Digital Thunder, which is used in the pro ranks and the college ranks. So they're actually using our video systems in the classroom with the NFL coaches to these high school players. So it's a great system. It's a great, easy tool to use, and using the programs the NFL uses is a good product that the Top Gun and the FBU guys. That's part of our partnership, is giving the high school athletes something that they can't use anywhere else.
I'd say you're doing something well if the NFL buys into that model. So.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As you can see, we have moved into the north end here at Jerome High School. The A offense against the C defense. Some of these blue chip quarterbacks and receivers that will rotate in against the D.
We've got a couple All-Americans over here on this field. Number 406 in orange is Deion Kane. He's from the Tampa area. He's a Clemson commit. He's right here lined up wide receiver at the bottom of your screen. And they're, this is a good group. This is a good group. There's some solid underclassmen and some All-Americans.
You also have Benjamin Victor in the slot. He's from Coconut Creek. Now Kane's so elusive and fast. He'll be in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. A dual threat guy in high school, but out of Tampa Tech. The star receiver on his way to Clemson. So that orange already looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. Clemson does a real good job. They recruit Florida pretty hard. They're big clients of ours as well. Jason Pugh's our Mid-Atlantic and Carolina guys. There's some great relationships with the staff there. And they get their fair share of speed. They get their fair share of some good prospects.
Tough ball for the corner. Connor Waits from Murrieta, California, was the one slinging it.
We talked about earlier today the kind of diamond in the rough guys. There's another one at the top of your screen, and the neon green stands out real well. Number 255. He's from the West Coast. Big, tall wide receiver we spoke to earlier, Cameron White, who was making a bunch of plays.
Yeah, he had a couple of nice catches in that first session. That's a very good throw, but unable to reel it in the end. They've also moved in, so they compress the space. Have more of a red zone attack. As we're with you to the top of the hour here on 247sports.com. You individually, was there anybody unsuspecting at camp that you say, wow, how was this kid on my radar before?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's always some kids that you find that you didn't know of. A gem that's been going around all the scouts here at camp is a 2019 quarterback from Southern California. So he will be an 8th grader. His name is J.T. Bradley, number 117. He's been working on some of the lower fields, and he, like I said, only an 8th grader, but he's kind of a little bit of the buzz of the camp for the young guys.
We're watching some of the top offensive stars. Kane's in the slot. That's 2 stops in a row for the defense.
There's another prospect we talked about earlier right there on your screen on the right in the blue headband, number 252, Brian London. He was from Texas. He was a linebacker we talked about earlier in the day that's had a real good camp. It's tough for those linebackers. There's a lot of space to cover. There's a lot of quick guys, so it's good to see them work backwards. It's easy to run forward. It's easy to chase the quarterback. Having to be up to backpedal, turn your hips, flip your hips for a big solid linebacker is a tough thing that we definitely try to evaluate as much as we can.
Alluding to that, when we're speaking to Nick Connor, who's a local boy from Scioto, going to Ohio State. Now you've got one of those long and rangy receivers in Victor. A lot of SEC schools looking at him. They go away from him on the throw. That sails to the middle, incomplete. Intended for Jose Eugene Reyes. He's from Albany, New York.
You were speaking to the under the radar guys earlier. Here's another one at the bottom, number 283. Is a big, tall wide receiver that we spoke. We saw earlier in the day. Actually, just had a little drop. But he is a big wide receiver. He's got some ability. Obviously, got to show a little more consistency with the hands. But he's got the frame. And that's what we use as evaluation. It's not necessarily about their production sometimes, but it's also about the projection of what they can do at the next level.
That's Alex James from Oklahoma City. Talk so much about individuals, but is there a state maybe you're seeing a trend, a shift where the recruiting is getting better, the prospects out of that particular region, which maybe hadn't been as strong in the past, have improved?
Absolutely, absolutely. Georgia's a big one right now. Obviously, the South's a hotbed for football. But about the last 4 or 5 years, they've had the higher national products, that have really made a statement. So Georgia's definitely coming up there. you know, a lot of the schools, you know, individually, Hawaii, believe it or not, is a school that, a state that's got some players that, you know, they typically stay on the West Coast, obviously. But yeah, Hawaii and Georgia are definitely two up-and-coming states for sure.
Our afternoon session of 7-on-7s. That's a good route. Brought in well to create space, and Christian Negro from Mount Vernon, New York, makes a nice play.
Good solid throw by the quarterback, number 330, Nick Davis. He's from New York State. He is a big, solid kid. A little on you know, the shorter side, but nowadays it doesn't seem to be as a focus as it used to be. But he's got a good, solid arm, good build. Definitely somebody we're keeping an eye on.
This is the quarterback Ellis from Florida. He was found late at a regional camp and will complete that quick out pass to the flat to Cody Hall from Terre Haute, Indiana. Guys got kind enough to join us here up until about quarter till, and then Randy Rogers will step in to close out the day in our coverage of the 7-on-7s.
It's a big target down here in the red zone, tight end Nate Kipperman. He's a 2017 tight end offensive lineman from Texas. It may get a look.
There are 3 units down here, offensively and defensively. If you're not getting a rep, you're learning. The coach, Chris Miller, as you can see on the near side bubble, right around the 45, giving instruction to those waiting for their turn.
He's got a good couple young quarterbacks in that group. Davis Mills from Greater Atlanta Christian in Georgia. Going to be a junior in 2017. Lindell Stone from Virginia. Like you said, Coach Miller speaking with. It's a good group of quarterbacks here at this camp. Some young ones mixed in some old ones, but it's a good group.
Yeah, those 2 East Bay All-Americans. Davis Mills was a national champion for the Football University National Championship. Well, they'll focus on a lot of that next week with the youngsters coming in, the middle schoolers. Adam Vance was the quarterback in that last rep for this offense, working at the north end of the field. Connor Waite. Just a little bit too much. The coverage was pretty good.
Stone right here at quarterback on your screen, the 2017 quarterback from Virginia.
Woodbury Forest is his school in Virginia, and the Wahoos, who are trying to get that program back on some national prominence.
Absolutely.
Have already offered. UCLA's in the mix.
They've actually been doing a good job of holding in their some local players. Quinn Blanding was a defensive back from a class or 2 ago, top 5-star guy. They got a big defensive tackle from that Virginia area as well. So they're getting some good guys in there, like you said, trying to turn that program around.
In this Top Gun or elite camp era, how often is it, or how common is it, I should say, where you see a kid who's maybe honed in on a school, or he's got down to 2 or 3? They keep it relatively practical now. They may make the decision, but someone who's hung up on a school and then takes a wild card out of the blue, how often does that occur? More often than not, or is it relatively matter of fact?
It's usually pretty straightforward. The thing with recruiting now is it's just so fast, so quick. You know, we've got a bunch of All-Americans here that have already, you know, narrowed down to 3 or 4 schools, or, you know, they may have already committed. And so the process is much faster. You know, your regional powers are always going to dominate, obviously. You know, the in-state favorites, sometimes the teams with the fancy jerseys.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, but it's pretty straightforward. You know, now there's so much coverage. So there are not too many secrets. But, you know, you always have those signing day switches, those late decommit, recommit, which is, I'm sure, a headache for the college coaches.
See Sean Varela, he had the last snap for the offense. It'll be interesting to see when you get back in your quarters later on and break things down with your guys at Exos, and we have you back tomorrow and some of your assessments of the day and who rated and how high.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, like we said, you know, we want to evaluate the guys we know. We want to evaluate the guys we just found out, and that's going to be key for us. We've got a great group. You know, we've got tons of experience. We've got college, professional coaches, players, scouts. So we have a real good group.
That's Davis Mills to Dion Kane. Mills only going to be a sophomore. Standout basketball player. As well as a quarterback who led the 8th grade Gwinnett Football League team to the title 2 years ago in the FBU National Championship. Goal line situations now.
I think that's Kipperman again from Texas, 357. Like you said, we got him at a tight end right now, but with the length and the height, you know, could grow into an offensive lineman one day potentially.
That's one of the things that Barrett was talking about. Your colleague Dan Thompson, who's your national scouting director, the projections of how these kids, especially the 2016s, the 2017s, are going to grow into their bodies. Could be playing a completely different position a year from now.
Absolutely. You know, the obviously kids are always working to get bigger, working to get stronger, but still maintaining that speed. You know, so for some of them, they need to move inside. You know, there's an old saying, the closer you get to the ball, the least athlete you are. You know, so those kids may not, they may, it all depends. You know, a lot of times they play both ways for their high school team. They'll play offense, play defense, return kicks potentially. So like you said, it's all about projection. You know, it's all about seeing them in person as much as you can and kind of having an eye for that. You know, and that's what we do at XOs. We do evaluations, not just on the production, but also on the potential.
That last rep is the closest thing in a 7-on-7 you'll see to a coverage sack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't get that ball out, they're going to blow the whistle. Here's Nick Davis.
Rushed to throw a little there in the red zone, kind of bottom half fell apart a little bit, kind of armed the throw, as they say. You know, the mechanics were a little bit off, but he's definitely going to get coached up by the coaches out there.
Almost 700 of the best high school football athletes, class of 2015, 16, 17, here at Top Gun 2014. This is live coverage of the afternoon session, day 2 of the 7-on-7. That's a good throw, and that's Dion Kane just making more plays.
Absolutely, that's a tough dynamic right there. You got Kane all the way at the bottom. You know, you've got Victor in the slot, both tall, rangy kids, like we said earlier, going to grow into their bodies. That's a tough duo to stop right there. Both Florida prospects.
Well, new reinforcements come on. Our coverage goes to the top of the hour. We'll wind down the day in just a few moments with Randy Rogers, get his thoughts here at this edition of Top Gun. I know you go to many camps, but this one's got to stand out for not only the history and the accolades and what Football University brings to the table, but the accessibility to see these guys in one familiar place, because that's hard to find nowadays.
It is. It is. You know, it's a great, like you said earlier, it's a great mix of on the field. You got top competition. You got top coaching. They also bring you into the classroom. You know, so you're gonna learn. You're gonna see the mistakes that you might have made or the progress you might have made on camera, on film. You know, which is an important teaching tool. And then you know, it's a great exposure. You know, we're out here trying to get as much exposure to the prospects as we can, and FBU does a great job. You know, working with the Army All-American team, and it's a great camp. You know, they've done a great job building it the last couple of years for sure.
Good throw by Stone, and dropped in the end. As we're going to take our time to thank you, Geiska, for your insight and analysis. Great stuff. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow too for the final day, and maybe even into next week a little bit.
We are here.
Back?
Yeah, we're here. Absolutely. I'll do it again.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you.
Geiska Crowley of Exos and the Midwest Scouting Director, based in Tallahassee, Florida. But Randy Rogers is going to join in just a few moments as we're watching the action in the north end, winding down the day here at Top Gun. Welcome back. We are watching the final moments here of the 7-on-7. A good day's work of analysis. And this guy to my right has done this for a long time in the state of Texas. You may be familiar with the Rogers Report. It's now part of Exos, and Randy Rogers joins us. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome back to Top Gun 2014.
Feels good to sit down for a while.
Well, I mean, you're kind of the guy to close things out for us. Your assessment of the day and the camp so far, and what you've seen throughout these first sessions here at Top Gun in Dublin.
Well, as far as the camp goes, this is the part that the kids really like because you know, most of them have been to a jillion camps this summer, and what they really like is the competition. And so you get to the one-on-ones, and now you get to the 7-on-7s, and you know, now you kind of get to keep score, and so the kids like that. And of course, there's you look at all this NFL experience coaching; those guys are very competitive themselves, so they get into it. So the noise level out here on the field rises. Yeah,
no doubt about that. When you say keeping score, you're going to remember if you burned a guy at the 7-on-7 in the last part of the day, as opposed to outsmarting him in the classroom, answering a question correctly, watching the film study from earlier in the day. Randy Rogers with us from Exos and the Rogers Report. A lot of good quarterbacks here, but the defensive backs have kind of been the talk of the town with the speed and agility, and some of the youngsters from 2016 and 2017 have made their mark.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I kind of did, my assignment was to look at the 2015s last night, and you know, and I had probably a dozen or 15 guys that I liked, and my whole business is the state of Texas, so I know who the Texas kids are here, not seeing any of the other kids because I don't work any of the other camps. So it's like, oh, that kid's a pretty nice kid, that kid's a nice looking kid, and then you get your massive spreadsheet which you were holding, and you're trying to flip through and trying to figure out who they are. So it's a lot of fun, and the DB group I think is really deep. I think it's the deepest group of all the positions here. The other group that's kind of impressed me is the number of young quarterbacks. We have some kids that are, oh my gosh, a 2019, a couple of 18s, a couple of 17s who are now, I think there's 3 17s that are promoted up here to the big house.
Yeah.
And that speaks well for them.
Well, we've mentioned some of those, and Davis Mills and Lindell Stone amongst the group that's getting snaps. That was Ellis who took the last rep. Kane has made an impact earlier in the afternoon, here in the late afternoon. For those who have kind of followed recruiting, you mentioned Texas and the Rogers Report. We were talking last year at Top Gun around this time, but your basis in the game of recruiting and how it's grown to where you've been able to partner with Exos.
Well, I coached for a long time. I was a recruiting coordinator both at Illinois and Texas, and so I got out of coaching in '97 after the '97 season. And part of my motivation was I had my two oldest boys are both playing Division I football, but if they don't play on your team, you don't get to see them watch.
Exactly.
And so I'd been a football coach for 29 years. I'd wanted to be a dad for at least 3, and I really felt there was a potential need for outsourcing of recruiting evaluation. So I've been a very different cat than most of the people in the recruiting industry in that I've worked for coaches. I'm not worked for coaches and coaching staffs, but my whole business is catered to help the colleges become more efficient. A lot of other people are on the internet side of it, and their fan base, and they make their money off of that, and that's just a different niche. So Exos approached me about 3 years ago and said, okay, we'd like to buy your report and then distribute it to schools. And it's been a nice marriage for me because it's taken a lot of the administrative kind of work out of the thing and allowed me to focus on what I really like to do, which is to look at players and evaluate players.
Yeah, do what you do best. Randy Rogers, Exos and the Rogers Report. This is the afternoon session, day 2, 7-on-7s. We're winding it down here at Jerome High School. I can ask you your impressions of the kids, and I'm sure there are many, but when you look at it from a football university standpoint, you've been to many camps, you've been here quite often. What's the headline for you? What really jumps off the page?
I see the growing trend in these camps is the focus on the group that, in this particular case, the 2017. It's the youngest group of the high school. There are more the regional camps I've gone to. I think that's been the better talent pool in that class. The kids who are freshmen going into the sophomore year, they're on the verge of the recruiting window. They really. First of all, legally, they're not supposed to be getting any mail until next September anyway. So they're really not on the clock, and they're more eager to learn. I think a lot of times with some of these older kids that are heavily recruited, they go to enough camps, they get enough smoke blowing them at them that they have a tendency to feel like they don't need to work on technique. They got it, and this is what Football U has always been to me, has been a terrific technique camp because of the experience level of the coaches.
Well, we've had Geiska, we've had Dan, and now we have Randy. As we wind down here for day 2, you'll go back, you'll assess, you'll look at your notes, then you'll put some new notes together going into the final day, which is with the closing ceremonies. What do you take out of here in such a short window to evaluate?
What we've tried to do, our plan was to have several different recruiting teams rotating among the classes, but independently. And I like independent thought, and so when we sit down in the meeting, we're going to talk about the 2016 quarterbacks, and by nightfall tonight, every one of our 10-man staff will have seen every kid at every position in every class, and so it's a building a consensus of opinion, which I think is what scouting is all about. Is that okay? It'll be like votes, and okay, we're going to talk about the 2016 quarterbacks. Who did you like? Who did you like? Who did you like? And eventually, we'll come up with a consensus to pass on down the line to Joe Buffard and his staff for their purposes.
Well, we like that you stopped by, and we'll look forward to assessing the day tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Randy
Right,
Rogers, the Rogers Report. Exos, we want to thank all of our panel that stopped by today, and from the likes of Dan and Geiska, and you even look at Barton Simmons from 24/7 Sports, our great crew, Bobby Brown, Rudy Ellis, and Ben Carolyn doing such a fine job to shoot the action as day 2 of Top Gun 2014 in the books. And for Randy, I'm Neil. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll be back with the 7-on-7 action live from Dublin around lunchtime. Until then, have a good night, everyone.
Football University's motto is technique beats talent every day, and we believe that 100%. So when kids come here, they're going to get coached up by what we believe are some of the best coaches in North America. 22 coaches with NFL experience over 1,500 years. We're here this weekend. Jim McNally, revered as one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL, and I can go on and on and on. These kids are going to come get fundamental technique testing. On top of that, every time they go out on the field, we're going to actually film them, take it back into the classroom, break it down so they know exactly what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, so when they go back out on the field, they're going to make sure what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong, they continue to do right, or they work on what they're doing wrong. And the parents, I've had probably at least 50 parents come up to me this weekend and say, the cost of the camp was worth alone us coming to all these seminars, learning about what the recruiting process was. For these kids in 7th or 8th grade, you're never starting too early.
It's a great investment into your son's future of football. They learn so much. They have fantastic instructors out here, so much knowledge. They inspire the boys. It's just well worth the money.
It was well organized. I came in here with no expectations. It was well run. Things were on time. I thought the coaching was phenomenal.
I had a lot of fun.
We watch 8th graders being offered now all across the country, and so the quicker these parents can learn about the process and what it takes to be a high school football player, what it takes to play Division I, Division II, Division III, the easier it's going to be when they get to be a sophomore and junior. And that's what we're here to do, is really educate the parent as well as the athlete and get them the greatest football coaching they've ever got. Football University, by professional, by invite, by position only.